Hello everyone, it's Lindsay and it's Sunday, which means another faith planner process video. Sorry I didn't have one last week. I was super sick and they've been kind of hit and miss, but I'm back on track. And so I am doing the, I guess, second week of February. I use my planner to write out daily scriptures, and so I like to kind of pretty it up, dress it up. I have a playlist of all my past videos if you want to check that out. For today, I made some custom printables using some digital elements from the Hungry JPEG. I have become an affiliate of theirs recently. I've always bought their bundles. That's where I get a lot of my fonts and elements and things like that. And so they reached out and said that they would send me the February kit if I wanted to do a couple videos using it. I said yes, because I was planning on it anyways. And so these are some elements from the February bundle, and I'm going to show you how I customized this printable over in Silhouette Studio. So let's hop on over there. I'll show you how I put it together, and then we'll jump back over here and finish the spread. Okay, so here's what the finished file will look like. I am working in Silhouette Studio. This is a free program that you can download. It works with my Silhouette Cameo cutting machine, but you can work in the Studio program without having the cutting machine. And so if you are not wanting to dive in and pay for Photoshop, or Photoshop's a little bit overwhelming, try this out. It can be a little finicky, but I find it a little bit easier than Photoshop. So this is the file. I'm going to go ahead and start fresh so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And I do want to have it show my print border, and that's this gray line. I guess we don't need the cut border. So the gray line is the print border. So you want everything within that gray line or it won't print out. So just keep that in mind while you're getting your printables ready. I'm going to go over to the library here. I've already dumped my files from the Hungry JPEG into my Silhouette Studio program. You can either move them in here. You don't have to move them in here. You can leave them in a separate file on your hard drive and then just drag the elements into Silhouette Studio as you need them. I just find it easier for me to have all my files already in here. And so I've like OCD organized everything. And so I'm working with the Fabulous February bundle. I will link that down below if you want to check it out. This is definitely a little more finicky than just finding printables that are all ready to go. This is kind of creating your own printables. So I'm working with the hand-drawn watercolor flowers, and this is included in that bundle. All of these, let's see, these right here are all included within that bundle. So you get tons and tons and tons of graphics. I believe there were some fonts that came with this one, so there's just some awesome goodies. But we're going to be working primarily with hand-drawn watercolor flowers. And you can see these are all the elements that come within that file. And you can see they're all little individual pieces. So you got to kind of create and fuss and make your own goodies. So that is all the florals and stuff. So I'm going to start kind of pulling some florals in. So I right-clicked, merge. This new version of Silhouette Studio, the 4.1 whatever, is a little bit fussy. I found trying to insert elements. I don't like it because you have to right click and merge every single time. You used to be able to just double click and it would go right in there, but I don't know. So I'm just going to go through and pick some of these florals and kind of set them to the side here. I can't remember exactly which ones I used, but that'll kind of get us started here. Come on down and add some greenery. I'm sure there's an easier, more efficient way to do this. I'm trying to relearn how to use Silhouette Studio since the new update, so just bear with me. So those are going to sit over there and chill for just a minute, and we're going to actually work on these washi strips first. So these pink strips here are using the pattern papers that are included in the kit. So I'm going to go ahead and draw myself a box, and then come up here to where I can change the size. I'm going to unclick this because I don't want it locked. And I know that I want it 7 inches wide and 3/4 of an inch tall, and that's going to fit at the top of my planner. So just depending on what you want to use it for, is going to depend on what size you want to make this, but I'm making it to cover that decorative strip at the top of my planner. So while that is highlighted, so I've clicked on it, I'm going to come over here to the little paint palette, and we're going to fill it. And we're going to fill it with a pattern that comes in that hand-drawn watercolor flowers. Now, you probably want to put these papers into the pattern section of your library. So if you come over to library, for me, I have to scroll all the way down. There's this pattern section. And so I can just drag and drop those papers that came in the kit into this patterns. And that's because the patterns work a little bit differently than if I was to put them in one of these regular files. You can do a little bit more as far as scaling and multiplying and things like that within a designated box or circle or whatever kind of shape you want to do. So it's up to you how you want to do that. But I dragged and dropped these 4 papers into my patterns. So if I come back in here, I can go ahead and, again, I'm on the little paint place, clicked on these little dots. These are our patterns. Come on down, and here's my hand-drawn watercolor flowers. And I can just go ahead and pick one of those, and it'll fill with that pattern. Now, that's pretty big, so we want to change the scale a little bit. So if you come down here to Advanced Options, you can adjust the scale. And so I want that to come on down just a little bit smaller, so it works better for such a large piece. The piece I'm going to create that goes on the bottom of my pages is a lot larger scale, so I'm wanting this to kind of replicate more like washi tape. So I went ahead and did that. Now I don't want this red line, because if I was to hit print at this point in time, this red line would be around this box. So you can change that to any color that you want. I like to come over here and change it to no fill, which is this little crosshatch. And so now that line is just clear. So here's a little free floating washi strip, and I want 2 because there's 2 pages on a planner spread. So if I right click and hit duplicate, now I have 2 little washi strips. So you could go through and make a whole bunch of washi strips, filling them with all different kinds of patterns. Silhouette Studio comes with all these patterns up here, so you do have those patterns to use. And then I've gone ahead and added some papers. Silhouette Studio Store has patterns that you can buy, so you can really go crazy. So now let's work on these pieces down here, and this was created to go on the bottom portion of my planner. And if I remember right, let's see how big I made this, 2.5 by 7. So I'll come over here and make a box, and then I'll come up here and I'm going to change this to 7 inches wide. That's how it's a little bit longer than how wide one of those pages are, but I can always cut off the extra. And then 2.5 tall. Now that is going to cover my Sunday and Saturday, those bottom days on my planner, but for this week I'm not worried about that. I have a really crazy week coming up ahead, and so I know I'm not going to be able to write verses out every single day. So we're going to go ahead and start with that, and then now we can start putting all of these pieces into this box. And so you're going to want to rescale, and this is where the fussiness kind of comes in, because it can take some time, and this little green dot rotates things. It can take some time to put something like this together, and so it may not be for everybody, but once I've done this once, I can save the file and print it again and again. So all I'm doing is just picking up each one of these individual pieces, and I am scaling it to whatever size I want. This is going to look different than the other one, but that's okay. So I'm going to go through and fill this in. If you right click duplicate, you can go ahead and duplicate those images. Now let's say I want this piece behind the hydrangeas. If I hit right click, I can send to back, and that'll put it behind everything. If you're comfortable, remembering what order you put everything in, then you can kind of play around with these send backward one layer or bring forward one layer. So just think of each one of these elements as a layer on a cake. So this is at the bottom of the cake. This, if you hit bring to front layer, will be at the front of the cake, and that kind of thing. So you would just go through and fuss with all of these little pieces, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to go and quickly put a few of these in here so I can show you how to make this work for the planner space. So let's say that we've got everything filled in, but we have all of these pieces that are hanging outside of this red box. Now remember, this is the size that I want that piece to be when I insert it into my planner, and so I don't want all this extra. Now you could print it just like this and then just cut off that extra, but I want to do it in the program so it's exactly the size I need when I put it in my planner. I know that there's probably easier ways to do this. I fussed with this for 30 minutes trying to find what the best way was, and I just was kind of struggling. So I'm going to show you how I figured out, and then you go to town. So I'm actually going to click and drag to select all of this and move it down a little bit. And then I'm going to actually slice or chop off these pieces. So I'm going to come over and grab my knife tool. I do not want it to auto apply, so I'm going to click off the auto apply. And then I can click and hit shift, which will make it a completely straight line. And if I had not clicked that auto apply, this would automatically slice everything off. And I don't want that because it's not where I want it. So by unclicking that, now I can move my slice line around, and I'm going to move it so it's right on top of that top part of the box. Okay, and then I can go ahead and hit apply, and that's going to chop off the top of all of these pieces, and so they can be deleted. So now I've got that nice crisp top line. You may want to go ahead, like I think on mine I left it fluffy or whole on the top, and so I just left everything kind of underneath this top red line. But we can go ahead and do that for all four sides. So again, I'm going to click, hold shift, and pull it down, and then click my arrow tool. I can move this over on top of that line on that box, hit apply, and that'll go ahead and chop everything off. Now if I click and drag, that's going to catch any teeny tiny little pieces that might be hanging out over there. Again, I'll click my knife tool, click and hold shift, and drag it. Oops. Get my arrow, put that right on top of that bottom line, hit apply. I'm going to click and drag to pick up all the little pieces. And then same thing, click, hold shift, drag it down, my arrow tool, drag it over the top of that edge. And then I can click and drag to delete all those pieces. And then I actually don't need this anymore. Okay, now I'm going to click and drag to highlight everything, and then hit Control G or Command G. It's going to group all that together. So now I have one solid piece. So ideally you go and fill this in so that it would look like this one here. You can see I scaled everything down quite a bit smaller in these pieces. So this is a piece right here. So this will go on the bottom of my planner, which is like this. So, and then I went ahead and right click, duplicate. And so now I've got two pieces. And then now I want to go ahead and add some of the butterflies from the collection. So if I come to my library, I'm going to go back up to hand-drawn watercolor florals or flowers, and then I can right click, merge, and I would add in all my butterflies and then just resize my butterflies. I know that I want them to be about 2 inches. That's what works scaled on my planner page. And so you can go through, you can either resize them, and then if you see these numbers here, this is telling you what the size of it is, or you can come up here and hit direct dimensions. If I'm resizing something like this, I want to make sure that this is locked right here. If it's not locked, and if I change this to 2 inches, it's only going to move the 1 dimension, and so it's going to squeeze it. So you want to make sure for something like this that you hit the lock button, and then if I add 2 here, it's going to go ahead and scale it within scale all the way around so it's an even resize. So I can just go through and merge in all these little butterfly pieces hanging out up here. And then arrange everything on the sheet so that it fits just like this one here. Sorry, my dogs are going nuts. My husband's on his way home. So now I've got this full sheet here that I can go ahead and print out and cut out. You can print this on cardstock. I'm going to print it out on the clear label paper and cut these out. You could use your Silhouette Cameo cutting machine and add cut lines and have it cut it out for you. I have a video showing how to do that. I will link it down below. But for clear sticker label or clear label paper, I like to just cut it out myself, and it's super easy and messy to cut out. So I hope that was helpful. If you have questions, leave them down below. Let's go ahead and jump on over into my planner and we'll finish the planner page. Okay, so I went ahead and printed this out on clear sticker paper. Ignore the fact that I have stuff printed on the back. It was my last sheet of clear sticker paper and I accidentally messed up, so I went ahead and just used it anyways. And so we can go ahead and just cut out all of these elements and just stick them right down on the page, easy peasy. So the hard part was the computer part. Now it's just sticking things down. For the washi tape, I'm actually going to stick this on white cardstock. If I was just to go ahead and stick it down over the top of this, you'd be able to still see it through, and I don't want that. I'm wanting to cover that up, so I'm just going to go ahead and take my scissors and quickly cut this out. Okay, and then I can take some cardstock and then I'll peel the backing sheet off. And then I'm very carefully gonna lay this down on here. This stuff sticks and does not want to come up. So starting from one edge, I can just smooth it over, and that way I don't have any bubbles. So let me go ahead and put you on fast forward and we'll finish up this page. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use my paper trimmer just to cut out the little washi strip. It's just a little bit easier to make sure that it's straight. And you could use these without putting it on the cardstock if you're going to use it somewhere where you weren't trying to cover something up. So I went ahead and cut out all of the pieces and kind of laid them out where I wanted them, and now we can start assembling everything. So I'm going to take these pages out of my planner. I've done this quite often. I just take my scissors and snip down the center of the coils into the holes, and then you can just pull the pages right out. And I did that so that I could go ahead and play with some paints and things like that and not have to be fighting the bulk of my planner. I've been working in my planner for over 6 months, and so it's getting pretty chunky. So here I'm taking some watercolors and just splattering some black and some pink, and I'm kind of doing it in a diagonal where I know I'm going to kind of be placing the butterflies just to kind of help your eye move around and tie those butterflies together. I'll go ahead and dry that and just use a paper towel to pick up any extra paint that might be on the page. I'm all about the ink splatters. I think it makes everything just come together. And now we can start just sticking things down on the page. So these bigger pieces are a little bit finicky to stick down. So I'm just going to pull part of the backing paper off, line it up in that corner, and then I can go ahead and pull off the rest of the backing paper and work from one side to the other. And this way it's not trying to jump and stick on the page before I'm ready. And you can see we made these so that they hang over the edge just a bit, but I can just trim off the extra, and that just gives me some wiggle room as I place these down. Now you could do this exact same technique and method in your Bible or any regular planner, your faith journal, and just size these pieces to whatever you need. That's one nice thing about making your own printables like this, is you can really create whatever size or shape or quantity of whatever you want, and you're not confined to what other people are already producing. And I really enjoy working on the computer and designing stuff like this, and so it's not a chore for me. I'll just sit down and work on it. It does take a little bit of time, but once the file's done and saved, that's it. I can just reprint it whenever I want from now until the end of days. So it's just kind of fun. I'll go ahead and just take all the backing paper off of these butterflies. And there was only a few butterflies, but I changed the size of the few that there were just to make them look a little different. And I can trim off all of the extra bits hanging off. And for the stickiness that is exposed in those holes, I'm just going to run my EK Success powder tool over the top of those. You could use baby powder, and that takes away the stickiness. And I can just take my crocodile hole punch and go back in and re-punch those holes. And that way I can have elements hanging off of the center of my planner, no problem, and this will fit right back into my planner. Go ahead and re-snip into those holes, that way I can insert it back in there. And then now we can go ahead and apply our faux washi. I think I'm going to sit down and just make a whole page of random washi. That's super fun. You could even just do it as a full page and then use your paper trimmer to cut out strips of different sizes. That would be a fun way to use some of those papers in that bundle. Go ahead and re-snip and make my hole again. You can see now the top is completely covered and you have this really fun floral garden butterfly planner spread. Alright, so there's my finished spread for the week. It's super simple to put together once the printable is put together. So you can sit down and make a whole bunch of printables all at once and then just save them on your computer. And you can use them again and again. One thing about the Hungry JPEG is it does come with a commercial license. So if you are somebody who has an Etsy store or you like creating printables, you can create printables and sell them using the graphics from the Hungry JPEG. I've used them even before I was a Bible journaler. I use their graphics and their fonts, so they're awesome. Go check them out. I'll have links down below. Check out the description box. It'll have links to all the products used today. Leave me any questions you might have down below and any comments that you might want to leave down there. Give this video a thumbs up if you were inspired and subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.